Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have with us one of the most accomplished musicians on the scene today. This gentleman has been around for over 40 years and has worked with many greats from Wynton and Branford Marsalis, Kenny Kirkland, McCoy Tyner, Betty Carter, Alice and Robbie Coltrane, to name a few. He is a Grammy Award-winning drummer, composer, actor, and band
You
leader.
got me.
Please welcome to Jazz Talk, Mr. Jeff Tain Watts. What's going on, brother?
You got it, man. It's nice to be here. It's
Man,
all
it
good.
is. Hey, it's so good to see you. And as I said, thank you for coming on the show today. You know, you've been a hero of mine, man, for many years because I love drummers. But I'm interested in knowing more about your humble beginnings, how this all started. Now, I understand that you're originally from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, the Hill District in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Okay. And now you started playing drums, right around you were 8 years old or so, 8 or 9 years old?
Yeah, I'll say that 8 or 9, like I guess I was in the fourth grade. I started to play snare drum. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, why'd you choose drums of all instruments? Why drums?
It's this funny story that I tell, but like you have general music class when you first start grade school, and
Yeah.
you go and you sing songs and you learn a little bit about music, and then like around in my where I went to school, Madison Elementary in the Hill, they wait till you're in fourth grade, and then they're like, you can choose an instrument if you want to get down. So I was like, I asked them if I could have a trumpet because I saw somebody, Herb Alpert. I saw somebody. I was like, trumpet looks cool,
Right.
and I always say that to this day. I feel like the music teacher, he lied to me because they ran out of trumpets. So he said, like, what did he say? He said, yeah, well, you want to play trumpet? Let me see your teeth. And I was like, yeah. And he's, oh, your teeth are completely wrong for the trumpet. You'll never be a trumpet player. And so I was like, wow, okay, I'll try drums. I'll try the drum. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, you started playing drums. Now let me ask you this: as you were honing your skills, man, in school, elementary school, or even moving into high school, did you play in any local bands around the area? Did you get any like guys together and play in any bands when you were a teenager?
In high school, I would jam a lot at school, but then I guess when I first by the time I got out of college, I was in a band. I was in a regional band in Pittsburgh that was on the radio, like an R&B band. When I got out of high school, I went to Duquesne University as a classical music major for a couple of years. And while I was there was a brother that was in the he was kind of in the opera department. His name was Lester Bell. They called him Fonz. Lester Fonz
Once.
Bell. Yeah, they call him Fonz Bell. And
There.
and he was hey, that's Isis Watts. But
Isis, how you doing?
hey, yeah. But anyway, he had a band. He like I used to go and practice in the orchestra room, and the conductor would be mad. He'd be like, why is he playing drums in there? There was a we had a conductor for the Duquesne Orchestra that was also the assistant conductor of the Pittsburgh Symphony. This guy Bernard Goldberg that was the principal flautist, but he was kind of a concert master too, like really great. And I played under him too. I used to like play Beethoven and stuff under him, and he was really cool. But anyway, Fonz, he checked me out in there and he asked me to join this band. So I joined this band called Flavor. And we used to go and play the American Legion and play the things and the Battle of the Bands and all this stuff. And we went in the studio and did a recording that was on regionally, something called The Gift of Love. It was like an R&B ballad, and then it was like a funky song on the other side. But yeah, I was just in a couple bands, and then after that I was in Boston. But yeah.
Yeah, you went to college, a couple years or something like that in Pittsburgh, and then you went on to Berkeley from there.
Yeah, I did a straight classical thing in Pittsburgh at Duquesne University for 2 years, and then I transferred to Berkeley. That's where I met Branford and Kevin Eubanks.
Incredible, man. You met a lot of the cats there, man. Donald Harrison and a lot of those guys. What was that experience like for you during that time? Because you're surrounded by, these guys, all of you guys are giftedly talented. But what was that period like being around those guys? Because I'm sure you guys were sharing ideas, what you wanted to do, whatever. Tell me about that time period, man.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it just seemed like looking back in retrospect, whenever I was transferring, I started to want to play more drum set and just have more of that as an emphasis. And I feel like at that time in the United States, there were only like maybe 4 or 5 places to actually go to college to study jazz. It was like
Mm.
North Texas State and Miami and Berkeley a little bit at New England Conservatory. It wasn't that much. Rutgers, I guess, it just started. So it wasn't really that much. But when I was trying to learn about the music in Pittsburgh, I was checking it out, but I didn't I didn't see like a whole, there was some brothers playing and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but younger guys, I guess the emphasis was on fusion, and I was actually coming out of fusion and funk and stuff like that myself. But then I got to Berkeley, and it was just refreshing to see people from all over the country and brothers, and everybody was interested we like Rick James, we like Parliament, we liked all kind of stuff, but everybody wanted to learn about the history of the music. There was a
Yeah.
lot of that. There's a lot of that, like because growing up in Pittsburgh, it just took me a long time to even realize the African American significance of the music. It's like once I started to study the choral jazz, I was like, I play all these people, all these people that are like the masters of this music. A lot of them were black people, and I wasn't just aware of that just from general media or whatever. So that helped me to connect to it in another way and make me want to just like learn more history. And when I got to Berkeley, there were a lot of people that were the same way. Branford and Donald Harrison, we lived together. I was in his band, and we used to play like organ gigs every Sunday and matinees and stuff. And then I ended up being he took me in off the street. Actually, it's like I had a roommate, but I guess he was holding the apartment for someone else, and the person came back and they kicked me out, and he immediately took me in. So
Yeah.
I'm very indebted to him. But yeah,
Yeah.
great, really great times.
And did you meet your friend, the late pianist Kenny Kirkland, there as well?
When I got to Berkeley, there were a lot of people from New York, musicians that had gone to like the Fame High School, gone to the High School of Music and Art and stuff like that, and they talked about Kenny. They talked about Kenny, but I didn't really meet him. I guess he was working around New York, and I was in Boston. But then I guess maybe my third semester, we started taking trips back and forth to New York on maybe like for Thanksgiving and things like that. Short holidays. And yeah, some friends of mine took me to his place, and we met. Just enough to be acquainted. But then I guess a year after that, I started working with Winton. So basically, I went to Berkeley. I did 4 semesters, and at the end of the fourth semester, I went to New York and recorded Winton's first CD, the half of the CD that I did.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like Branford had left school before me to work with Clark Terry and Art Blakey, and he probably played with Lionel Hampton a little bit. And so he was in New York, and then he started doing more stuff with the Messengers. And then Winton started doing stuff with Herbie Hancock in the quartet with Tony Williams and them. And then Sony signed him. So then I was like, man, this is a trip. So they signed him. I did the record, but then my parents had me go back to school. They were like, if you don't have any gigs or anything, whatever. So I went back to school in the fall, and then I just remember being in the dorm, and I was coming down the hall back when they had payphones in the hall and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And somebody was on the phone. They was like, "Yeah, Jeff just walked by. He's going down." And Branford was on the phone. He was like, "Go get him, go get him." And so I got on the phone. He was like, "Man, I'm in New York. Yeah, my brother, we're gonna start touring next year, man. So you got to leave school." And I was like, "Really?" And I thought he was messing around, but then he kind of confirmed it. So I went home and then moved to New York. But I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah,
yeah.
you did answer my question. You know what was beautiful, man? I think, Jeff, the first time I heard you was on those early Wynton Marsalis albums in the 80s. I'm like, man, who is this drummer? I was really impressed by what I was hearing. I said, this is definitely not, and I could kind of hear some influence of maybe some Elvin Jones and Tony Williams, but I said, no, this guy is got a good thing going. So all of those recordings, man, think of one, Dark Coat, Black Coats from the Underground, J Mood. I was checking out everything, man, and I loved it. I loved everything you guys were doing. And Winton, sort of, as I said, hit the scene too early 80s and made a name for himself. And yeah, all these young musicians, man. I'm like, oh, there's Wynton Marsalis, and oh, here's Branford Marsalis, and oh, who's this guy? Kenny Kirkland. Started seeing all these names, and I guess you stayed with Wynton until the late '80s, and then you hooked back up with Branford and started playing with him. And yeah, man, it was like like Wonderland or something. You guys were just amazing. The Young Lions, as I refer to you guys. And tell me about the Tonight Show, man. How did you get to work on the Tonight Show? Was that through Brantford, or
Yeah, that's Bradford. Well, I guess it's funny. Like a lot of things come across Bradford's plate, and he has the latitude to be like, this looks cool. This is not necessarily for me and stuff like that. And so they called him, and he'll just, we'll be on tour somewhere, and he'll just say it very casually. He's like, "Oh man, they want me to do the Tonight Show, man. I ain't doing that, man. That's cool." Blah blah blah. And then we would be sitting around like, wait a minute, brother, that could be kind of slick. They might want to rethink that. So he said he would do. He said he would check it out, and so that was, it was just different. It wasn't anything that we would actively pursue, and in retrospect, our musical lives were already really great
yeah,
without it. But I guess the type of jazzy musicians or creative musicians that we were, it was more of a question of like, why not do it as opposed
yeah.
to having some impetus to do it. But the funny thing about it was we went out. I guess we started in May of in '92, but we actually went out and were guests on the show like maybe around February of that year.
Hmm.
And so Jay had us on, and we played some music, and they talked. Yeah, you're gonna be the guy, and cool. We made our appearance, and then we went out. We had some days off in L.A., and they had real estate agents come. They came and helped us look for cribs, look for apartments, look for houses. And so, everybody was shopping for houses, and myself and Kenny Kirkland, we decided to try to find like a two-family house, like the West Coast duplex, they call it, like a two-family house, like two house numbers but one roof, and
Yeah.
maybe like a three-bedroom crib, either on top of each other or next to each other. And so we found this one. And it was like, right before you get to Pico, but like a really great neighborhood and nice crib and stuff. And so we had signed the lease, and we went home, and then like a month later, the Rodney King verdict came, and LA just blew up. And the person that was going to rent us this house, they said, "Man, I'm selling this house. I'm getting out of here, man, because they're tearing up stuff around here, and whatever." So we moved to LA, and I kind of lived in a hotel for like a month, and found a really cool. We found a really cool place, and it was a great experience, though.
Interesting. Now, brother, I want to ask you a question. I want you to confirm this with me. How you got your name, man? I heard that you and Kenny Kirkland were riding in Florida somewhere past the gas station and said, what, Chef or Sheep Tain or something like that? And that's how you
Yeah.
got your name. Is that true?
It's very true. It's very true. Yeah, they had the thing, and the logo was like the profile of the Native American with the headdress and stuff. And yeah, and so yeah, he used to give people a lot of names, and he liked to do interesting things with language.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, some guy just wrote a book about him called Doc Tone. Like if you,
Oh, wow.
it's around. This guy, he's got a good heart, and he interviewed myself and Sting and Rodney Jones and a lot of people, Ronnie Barrage, and quite a few people. He
Yeah.
talked. He talked to some people and kind of gave, because everybody asked like what kind of person he was and stuff like that, and because you hear so much life in the music, people that
Yeah.
come on, and yeah, just a really great experience playing with all of them, really really good brothers. And like I call them like just a whole bunch of unicorns. Like just people with that much talent and insight into many things, and you're fortunate as an artist if you get to interface with one or two people like this in your career, and these were like just really brothers.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to ask you, man, how in the world did you get to become an actor? How'd you get into film? I want to ask you about Rhythm Jones, man. Talk to me about Mo Better Blues. How did you get to work with Spike Lee, man? That's incredible.
Man, so much of my life is kind of circuitous, like all these stories I'm telling you so far. But it's kind of like, there was just a really cool period of time in Brooklyn, like the Brooklyn that kind of made its name for now. So there were just a lot of artists living in downtown Brooklyn. I was on Adelphi Street, and the Eubanks brothers were like 2 blocks away, living in Slide Hampton's house, and Branford and went and lived up the street, and I'd, go to the walk past the bar, and Chris Rock is at the bus stop, and Rosie Perez lived over here, and so Spike lived with his dad, the great Bill Lee,
Right.
had the brownstone right on Fort Greene Park, and anyway, I had met Spike. Branford took me to his place one day because he wanted to show him. He had just done maybe the video for Tutu for Miles, I think it was.
Mhm.
And so we came over there and was sitting around, and I guess She's Gotta Have It had come out,
Yeah.
and we were hanging out, and my Spike met me, but I was checking it out. I was hanging with him, and then after a while he was like, I mean, it takes me a minute to absorb people, and I'm not just gonna like bite on people for
Right.
unnecessarily and stuff. But it's no disrespect. I'm just crazy. But
Right.
but after a while, he was like, man, have you seen She's Gotta Have It or what? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it a couple of times. But anyway, we started doing work on soundtracks. So
Yeah.
so we so we worked on School Days, and I guess and we worked on Do the Right Thing. So School Days was like kind of like a big band and an orchestra with really heavy cats, Harold Vick and Kenny Barron, all these people were in it involved, John Faddis and all these people. And yeah, School Days was really interesting because it had a big percussion section with all these drummers. It was like myself and Smitty Smith and Joe Chambers and Kenny
Yeah.
Washington. And it's, just like the great Ray Mantilla who just passed away. Just like a really great experience. So anyway, it was time to do work on this movie that was at the time it was called Love Supreme. And so they wanted Branford's band to do the music with the addition of Terrence Blanchard. So Branford wrote some stuff. We went in the studio and we recorded all the music for the movie. And actually, when the part where they have Denzel doing the rant, while we're playing
Right.
the little groove and stuff like that, it's like that's the first time I met Wesley, because they
What's
just
the
they just
snipes?
want yeah, they just needed they just wanted somebody to have a voice going on while we tried to play the music and stuff like that. So he came to the studio and did that. And Bill Nunn, late great Bill Nunn, he came by and was hanging out. And it turns out he's from my neighborhood in Pittsburgh. Like, his dad just got in the Hall of Fame, Bill Nunn
Mm.
Sr., the great
Mm.
the great scout of the black colleges for the Steelers. But Bill Nunn went to high school with my brother. He was in the Boy Scouts with my oldest brother, James. He was like a
Mm.
grade above him and whatever. But anyway, how I got the thing, we had the music done. They were, okay, this is gonna be in a movie. Cool. Nice check, everything's cool. What happened? I used to go to the Branford had these season tickets to the Knicks games. So I would
Mm.
hang with him, and when he was out of town, I could go to his assistant and pick up tickets and go check it out and stuff. But we'd be at the game, and Spike would be courtside, and he would always like on at halftime he would walk up and come visit Branford. So this time he came up and he was like, Jeff, he was like, I know you worked on the music. I want you to be a consultant on the film. I said, okay, what do you need me to do? He said, I need you to teach this dude to look like he's playing the drums. And so I said, cool. And it was the actor Daryl Bell that played Dwayne Wayne's friend on
Right.
A Different World, the dude with the
Right.
hat. And so, him. So I was supposed to teach him to look like he was playing drums. And that's the last I heard about it. So in between that and when I actually got the gig, I think that either Spike did some screen tests or he did something, and it was like the other instruments were easier to fake, but drums are so visual. Like every note is definitely visual.
Right.
You see the notes being produced, and so he decided to cast a drummer. But he went, and I didn't hear anything about it until he like ran through everybody else. I heard that they had auditions in New York, and it was like maybe Smitty Smith and Carl Allen and Will Calhoun and all these drummers went down, but nobody could read for the part. They I found out later it was like he didn't like how they read the script, and so then Spike went to Chicago to to try to find a drummer and also to cast the female singer Cinda Williams. So Spike flew to Chicago, and I know some Chicago drummers that went down there. This drummer, I think Steve Cobb, that worked with Ramsey Lewis and some other cats, they went down. And so we just happened to be playing in town with Branford at a club called George's. So,
Mm.
so Branford's quartet was playing in town, and after Spike was casting all day, he came down there to hang out. So he's at the club, and we're on the break, and I'm at the bar, and Spike is downstairs with Branford and Kenny Kirkland. Man, I don't know what's happening, man. I can't get a drummer to read these lines, man. And they was like, why don't you just ask Jeff? And he's like, yeah, I guess so. All right, all right. So he came up and he's like, yo, here. He's like, do you want to try to get down with this? And I was like, cool. So he gave me like a few pages of script. And he said, just look at these. And I'll be in New York. You're going to be in New York next week? I said, yeah, I'll be in Brooklyn. And he said, okay, come up to RCA. I'll be up there mixing some stuff. And you can read for me. And I said, okay. So I just took it. And I was like, wow, this will be interesting. So then I just, I got back from Chicago. I got home. And then I just jumped on the train. And on the train, I just memorized what he gave me and just tried to do it. I did it. And he was like, cool, here's a script. I was like, wow. So it was really heavy. And, I called my friends, called my mom, it was just freaked me out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I just remember going to I'm living in downtown Brooklyn, and Spike had the movie headquarters in this firehouse, like close to where the Manhattan Bridge comes out. And so they had the first table reading. You know how the cats go and do that. So I just walked over. I walked over there, and I walk in there. It's Denzel, and Robin Harris, and Sam Jackson.
Let me stop you for a second. And Jeff, when you walked in there and you see those cats, did you feel like intimidated? Were you like, oh my God? I mean, did it hit you? Were you frightened, or how did you handle that situation, man?
I just admired these. I admired these cats, but you know what? Most of them, their careers were in a different space. This is Denzel, but he's
Right.
kind of like a TV guy that's done some movies. He doesn't
before he became Denzel.
Yeah. I mean, he was still in there, and all the girls loved Denzel, and he was, they respect. It was right before Glory came out.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of put him. He kind of got, that's when he started to get the trophies and stuff like that. But anyway, he was cool. Wesley Snipes was mostly unknown. He had only done like Wildcats. This is before New Jack City. So it's like Bill, Giancarlo Esposito, nothing near the megastar all these cats became and stuff like that. But anyway, I don't know. I just, just from over the years, just from interfacing with a lot of people and being a lot of it's from being around like Winston and them. Like they're like not really affected by.
Yeah, they're not starstruck or anything like that. Yeah,
they never have been. They could be around the greatest musicians and cracking jokes with Herbie and we go on the Today Show and they're just like messing with Brian Gumble like to no end and Jesse Jackson comes in the dressing room and was like, "Oh man, what you doing here?" And it's just like that. They're just like, yeah. And I'm just like, how can you say that to this man? But it's just like they just don't care. But anyway, but that was interesting. It was cool. It was a great experience. We used to. I'll tell you the interesting stuff is that just to get everybody in the vibe. The musicians, the cast that played the musicians, we used to hang out as a band. So we would go to the clubs and they would have their horns. And so Denzel wasn't that famous then. So he could rock a shades and a baseball cap and have a trumpet and come in the club. And Wesley would have his saxophone and we would go to the Blue Note, go see Max Roach and go to Sweet Basil Club. And we'd be in the club and I would see cats and they're, hey Jeff, what's happening? And I would say, hey man, this is Wes from the Bronx. He plays sax. He's bad, man. And Wesley was giving out his number. Oh, yeah, man, I got a Latin gig off of this, man. Blah, blah, blah. Like cats would be like, oh, man, you hanging with Jeff, man. You must be able to play, man. And blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, this is D from Mount Vernon. He's a bad trumpet player and whatever. And we was just hanging out like that. So that was interesting. Went to see like all the jazz films. We go together and watch the Monk film and watch Around Midnight. And we went out to Brooklyn Conservatory and watched like a Miles Davis concert together and just did like some clubbing and it was cool. It was really, really super. Wesley used to pick me up every morning at 6:30. He lived like about 4 blocks from me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. You know, like I said, when you were in that group with Branford, the stuff that you guys were putting out, it was like the same thing. Everything that you guys did was amazing. You know, the beautiful ones are not yet born. Also, that's a personal favorite of mine. And that recording did really, really well for you. Now, I wanted to ask you at that time, who would you say your biggest influence was, Jeff, as far as drums is concerned? Because I know the cast that you like, but was there anyone in particular that you sort of were like aiming at, like, that's what I want in my sound, the way I play? Who were you checking out at that time as far as drummers?
Okay, when I started to play with Winton, I I come from the fusion space, and then I started to check out like the core of mainstream, you know, the canon of jazz and stuff like that. So I was trying to have some Max Roach in my game. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm trying to have some Art Blakey in the game. But actually, when I started getting Winton's gig, I was, checking out all kind of music and easily playing more funk and stuff like that in college and stuff like that, funk and fusion and Earth, Wind and Fire and P Funk and
Yeah.
fusion and some Steve Ferrone with Shaka Khan and stuff and whatever, just anything, because I was in college, so I'm like, I want to work when I get out of school, so I'm trying to be ready to play with anybody. And but then they called me for this, so I'm like, man, this might be a nice gig. So how am I going to keep this gig? Well, who has my man been playing with? So, okay, he's been playing with Art Blakey. So I really got to try to swing. I got to swing hard like a monk. I got to try to swing. And then I'm like, well, he's been playing a lot with Tony Williams lately, and Herbie's quartet. So, a lot of the earlier music, it kind of had a pivot foot in that zone. So,
Yeah.
so I just tried to at least get into the logic of how Tony Williams made the music feel and how he orchestrated stuff and how he put his thing together. Um, I mean, Elvin Jones, from the time I started playing swing like that, was always kind of like the basis of my feel and stuff like that. And it was that was like a easier, nothing about music is easy, but that was like an entry point that was always cool for me, like a home base. Spreading the beat out like that. But then I thought about these things for Winton, and then I also knew that he was influenced by New Orleans music. So I started to listen to older things and listen to the great New Orleans drummers like Paul Barberan with Louis Armstrong and Shannon Powell and people, James Black and just learn about the logic of the parade drums and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of started in that zone, and of course, Coltrane's music. Then later, Monk's music came in there, so I try to get like a dancing thing and the
Yeah.
logic, from Ben Riley and Frankie Dunlop and stuff like that. The more I learned about New Orleans music, somebody like Ed Blackwell and Idris Muhammad, they become important. You see the relationship between the groove and the Caribbean roots and the parade and stuff like that. You just see how it all fits together and how the drums talk to each other, and that's a cool thing. Yeah, and
You
then,
know what?
go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, one of the things that I like, man, you and Elvin were on that recording together with Winton, that Thick in the South.
Oh yeah,
That was great, man. What was that? I mean, what was it like? What was let me ask you this. When did you meet Elvin Jones? What was that experience like? Because he seems to be your cat, man. I mean, I see him on your Facebook page. You got a picture of Elvin up there. So I said, he's got to be the guy, man. You know?
I mean, it's he represents so much about the music, man. I mean, how do you create something that's that abstract that feels that good?
Yeah.
And he was just really, really sweet to me all the time. And um, tell me that question again. What did you say?
Yeah, I says both of you and Elvin were on Winton's recording.
Oh,
Thick in
the
the South.
session.
Yeah, and I said, what was that like, man? I mean, just I'm on the same record with Elvin Jones. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And then you asked me about meeting him. I met him a few. I would meet him like randomly over the years, like while I was in college and on the road and stuff. And but the session, it was just deep. I was just mostly there to check out his days that he was there, and a lot of the stuff he played, he just had control over that really slow tempo. He could be really free but really groovy at the same time. But we always had a cool relationship. just run into him in airports. We go get drinks and stuff like that. One really great night was during the Tonight Show. We went and I guess on the weekend I was a judge for the Monk Thelonious Monk drum competition in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I flew to New York. And then the judges were like myself and Kenny Washington and Ed Shaughnessy, Dave Weckl, Jack DeJohnette, a couple of Alan Dawson, a couple other guys, and so we're judging the competition, and then Bill Cosby is hosting. So he's we're at Carnegie Hall, and Bill Cosby's up there, and then Bill would come up in the balcony where the judges were because Bill liked to play drums and he liked to hang out and mess with the cats. So he's up there messing with us, and we look down on the floor and he sees Ben Riley and he's like, Ben, get up here, man, come up here. And then Ben Riley comes up and he's sitting with us. So I'm hanging with all them. And then later on, I go out to the club, the famous club Bradley's, the late night watering hole, piano bar. And Elvin is there. So he's like, hey, Watts, come on, Watts, let's get a drink.
And you got the voice down, Pat. That's incredible, man.
yeah, no, man. I love that dude. But, so we're like drinking Armagnac and we're hanging.
Right.
And I'll say Clay Hutchinson was playing with somebody like James Williams and somebody was playing. And so they asked Jones to play. So Jones played. And then he made me play. And I was like, I'm not playing, man. I'm not playing. He's like, come on, man. Come on, play. I was like, oh, man, tag, man. So I went and I played. And then we hung the rest of the night. And then I said, all right, I'll take you. I had a car. So I said, I'll take you up to your crib. I took him up by Central Park and dropped him off. So I went back to my hotel and I put in the, that's back before, a lot of alarms on your phone. I don't know. I tried to get a wake up call from the hotel. They didn't give me the right wake up call. So I woke up in a frenzy. I had to get back to the Tonight Show. So I'm running late. I had to reschedule my flight, and I'm driving to Kennedy Airport. I dropped my car off and all this stuff. And so finally I get there. I get to the show, and it's right before the show is supposed to happen. So I'm technically in some kind of trouble. But I get there, and when I go through the gate, the security guard says, "Hey, man, don't even worry. The Republican convention was happening in New York, and Ronald Reagan spoke, and he made the whole thing late, so the show is canceled. So don't even worry about it."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh, cool." But then I went in, and everybody was trying to prank me. So all the producers were like, "Oh, Jay wants to see you, man. You better watch out." I was like, "Okay, that's cool." But Jonesy, he was just always really, really, really beautiful to me, man. Like, I mean, I've even taken pictures with him where he's like, I'd be taking a picture and I'm like a little kid. I'm just like, yeah. Elvis, you so, and he's like, "Nah, man, let's be like two dudes, man. We just here, man. You don't have to do all that, man. You my man." And he was cool like that.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. I wanted to ask you, your resume is unbelievable. It's incredible, Jeff. You played with everybody. I wanted to ask you, what was it like playing with certain artists? What was it like playing with McCoy Tyner, man?
Man, that's one of the singular joys of my whole existence.
Yeah.
They, we just had we didn't play like lots, but it's like he would just call me like at crucial times, and then I just remember living in Brooklyn. He just started calling me. I guess maybe he called me for the recording first, for the first recording. So I'm on half of this record called Double Trios. Like,
I got that.
You got that, Marcus Miller.
That's like from 85 or 86 or something like that.
Something like that. So I just remember being in Los Angeles with Winton playing somewhere, and he just called me himself. And it's McCoy Tyner, And I'm like, my head is just like, pow. So I'm like, okay, just somebody that I had such a Jones for playing with, but I would never like kind of bum rush him or be like, you should play with me. But anyway, so we did that recording, and that was really cool. And then after that, he would just call me casually, man. He's like, "What you doing next Tuesday? Meet me at McKell's." And I just meet him there, and we just like play. He would just call tunes and play them and stuff like that. Just all the hits, all the Moments Notice, all the stuff of Super Trios. He knew that I knew like a lot of the stuff, and whatever. But the best one I could tell you is that they got me. I went out for a 2 week stint with him, and we played a week in Chicago at like the Fairmont Hotel.
Yeah.
That's what it was. All right. So we played a week there, me and him and Avery Sharp and that Frederick Dwayne Hubbard. And this is around 1987 or something like that, man. They just had their way with me. They just like whooped my young butt, smacked me around. It was, man, I just got my whole tail kicked. You know, it's kind of like the first night, I was just accustomed to playing with younger people or people,
Yeah.
there was a certain architecture to the way people played. It's like, all right, solo is happening, we're swinging. All right, they play something, and you play something. You play a little more, and then they play their real bad stuff, and then you play your real bad stuff, and then and then it's the next solo.
Right. Right.
But I was playing with them, and it was like, yeah, and then you play your stuff, and then I ran out of stuff, and they just kept going and going and going, and I was just like, it was like I had ran a marathon or something like that. I was just sweating
Oh
and just
man.
flailing. They just, it just taught me about pacing and taught me about just, yeah. But he was always, yeah. He was. All the cats have been gracious to me though, but it's really special to me to have had that opportunity.
There's a story that I share all the time, Jeff. I have a rare TV interview with McCoy Tyner and Freddie Hubbard. And the
Yeah.
reporter asked Freddie, he says, man, you play with various pianists. You play with Herbie. You play with McCoy. He said, what's the difference playing with those guys? He said, well, Herbie's fantastic. He plays synthesizers. He says, but when it comes to the natural thing, acoustic music, he says, McCoy Tyner is my man. He says, playing with the McCoy Tyner is like playing with three piano players, you know? And
Yeah.
just the sound that he gets on the instrument, man, that power. Even Dee Dee Bridgewater was telling me, she said in her early days, she used to just go down to this club in New York and just sit there and watch McCoy Tyner and play and write poetry to his playing. It was just so powerful and very African too, especially during that period, late 60s and early 70s, when he was doing songs like, Sahara, Enlightenment, and just, man, it was incredible. But that's a blessing. You got a chance to play with him, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's just certain, there's great pianists, and then there's where they connect with you on another, like on a visceral kind of physical level, and it's kind of like just the way he was playing, you could feel it through the floor.
Mm,
You can feel it through the floor, and then certain piano players, they like, you know, they help the drums.
yeah,
It's like another percussion instrument, and it gives you like all this stuff and beefs it up, and like Kenny Kirkland had that, and
yeah,
I mean, I played with Little Richard once. He had that. It's like it almost doesn't even matter what you play because they got the whole party is right here anyway. So you can get down if you want to. If you don't, I'm getting down anyway. And that's McCoy Tyner. Just man, so many elements. Just the spiritual thing, but he's just all funky.
yeah.
It's just like sometimes he'll just play a groove solo, like people are waiting for all these lines and stuff, but it's like the most advanced, groovy polyrhythm, just rhythm solo, and that presence and that sound, man.
Incredible, incredible. Another artist you work with, what was it like working with Betty Carter, man?
See, now that's the interesting one too, because I just knew her socially for so many years.
Hmm.
I went to see her every time she played because she always had a great band and she was always, always creative. I remember the first time I saw Lewis Nash, I went to see Betty at the Village Gate. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, who's this dude on? Oh no, not another one. Dang, this is rough. He was, yeah. The first time I see him, and he's just nasty. I'm just like, wow, it's incredible. But anyway, Betty, I used to see her like when I would hang out at night because she lived not far from me. She used to just be hanging at the bar at the end. She's like, Jeff, you going to Brooklyn? And I'm like, yeah, okay. She would drop me off at home and stuff like that. Probably like a dozen times. And just was really friendly to me. I would, she was kind of a taskmaster as a band leader. I would hear from cats that work with her. She would try, kind of get inside of their thing, and maybe get a little personal in pursuit of developing their musicianship, but they're being a mentor and stuff like that, but it was rougher on some people than others. um it's cool for me because I got to get the experience of playing with her without her telling me how jacked up my life was or something like that. But no, she was just really sweet. But I just remember being in the same club, Bradley's, one day, and she just came to me. It was like a little girl, just so sweet. She was really sweet to me all the time. And she just came, hey Jeff, are you working like next Wednesday and blah blah blah? I'm like, no, I'm home. And she's like, would you come? Would you play with me? John Hicks is going to be there and Walter
Wow.
Booker. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'll play with you on the moon in the middle of the desert with no water and just like I'll play with yeah, jump
Oh
on,
man,
you
that's
know.
incredible.
Yeah, so that was just incredible. I got to do that with her. And yeah, she was just really nice to me. And then we played once on the Tonight Show also, and that was great. And it was nice. I recorded with John
I mean,
Hicks.
I think I remembered it. I think I was looking. Did she perform that song "Tight"?
Yeah, we played tight on that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember that, man. Seeing her on there. That's right. That's right. Yeah, Betty was something else, man. I heard she would eat piano players. I was talking to Cyrus Chestnut. He was telling me a story. He was terrified, man, when he had to play with her. But yeah, Betty was something else. What about you? Also played with George Benson, man. What was it like working with George?
Really, really special. I was watching some of that the other day. There's one concert from there's some stuff around from like Montreux and from Finland, but there's a concert I keep revisiting that's in Vitoria, Spain. And
Mm-hmm.
um that's really cool. But yeah, well George is from my neighborhood. And after I started playing with him, he, like growing up in Pittsburgh, we heard about George Benson before Breezing. So
Right.
he was little Georgie Benson in Pittsburgh
Right.
from back when he used to play on the street and play. He was playing and singing R&B as a child on the
Mm-hmm.
street. He had to become this jazz guy. Like somebody told me this story that he got hired by Jack McDuff, and he went
Yeah.
on and they flew him out to the West Coast, but he wasn't. He had seen Pat Martino and he got inspired, and he saw some other people, and but he had to become a jazz musician. So he got on the gig with McDuff, and he did like one or two gigs, and McDuff was like calling back to New York, like, "Tag man, I got this guitar player, man. I don't know what he's doing." And but somebody reputable told me this. They were like, "Man, but I gotta use him, so I'll just use him until we get back to the East Coast, and then I can pick somebody up." And then he just like they said that they were driving in a van, and he would lie on top of the Leslie speakers and the organ, and he had just enough room for his guitar, and he just practiced all the way across the country. And then by the time he got to New York, he was the George Benson that we know today. But anyway, he was like, I went to the Blue Note. I guess I had just I had just left Winton's group, went to them, to change direction, and I was, not working with him.
Yeah.
And I was in the club, and a friend of mine, there's a guy that arranged the big band version that George did of Beyond the Sea, and maybe this guy named Angel Rangelov from Romania. He's an arranger that I went to college with, and so I was in the club just like probably hanging out, being a nuisance and whatever. And my friend told George, he said, Jeff's not playing with Winton now. He's like, really, really, brother? Oh man. So he just stepped to me. He said, "Man, I heard you were just around." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, can you come out to the house like next week?" And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be an honor." That's because I socially we chatted and stuff. He's from my neighborhood. He said he used to be driving down past my house. He see me like wrecking dump trucks and doing kid stuff and just being a knucklehead. He saw me for years. But anyway, yeah, I just went up to by the George Washington Bridge. I caught the train up there, and then he came and picked me up in his Bentley, and then went to his house. And it's just really nice. His wife is great. His son, Robbie is great, and the cats are great. Great food, and yeah, we just played for like about an hour. And he was like, "Yeah, brother, we're gonna have a good time, and just come on the road with me." And he was just amazing every single night, and the consummate gentleman.
Yeah.
And So I mean, we did a certain amount of stuff in the States. We did like the pop stuff, and I got into that, and it was really, such beautiful songs, and the singing is great, and everything is first class every time. And then in the summertime, we went and would do the festivals in Europe. So he would mix a little more jazz in there. And one of the highlights was I was at the North Sea Jazz Festival, and we had the pop jazz group play, but on a different day, Jack McDuff happened to be there, so they had a reunion of the Jack McDuff Quartet, and I
Mm.
played.
Oh
So
wow,
me and yeah, myself and Red Holloway and George.
that's
So that
beautiful,
was
man.
that's really beautiful. So I mean, so by the middle of the tour, we picked up um, Clark Terry and James Moody, and so they're on the tour bus with us. So we're just going to shows. We play some of George's stuff, and then they would come out and play with us. You know.
Incredible, man. Yeah, and I always said, I guess George Benson's probably biggest influence was, I would say, Wes Montgomery. He's coming from the Wes Montgomery thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's quite obvious. But man, I want to talk to you about some of your recordings, man, that I love. My personal favorite is probably Bard Talk. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. Citizen Tain also, both
I
of
know what
those,
you mean.
man. Yeah, both of those. It's just, I don't think I can say this is my favorite because both of them are just nasty, man. I love both of them. And I missed you. I think one time a number of years ago, you were in DC at Blues Alley. And then I saw the thing and I said, oh man, I done missed Jeff Tain Watts. He was in town. I said, when am I going to catch this brother? And then finally I caught you after all these years in Baltimore, of all places. You were playing with Gary Thomas. And I'm like, man, I couldn't even believe when I saw, wait, I said, Jeff Tain Watts is going to be in Baltimore. I'm there. I'm there. So I made sure. And of course, man, you were just incredible as usual, every time I see you. But wanted to ask you, man, about this Guggenheim Fellowship that you got in 2017, man. Tell me about that. Because like I said, I know you're composing and you're doing things now, but tell me about that award, man. What was that like getting that?
Yeah, my wife is always like, she's on top of that stuff, check, like you can benefit from this and use it for music and stuff like that. So, she just asked me for like a proposal, like what would you do? I gave them enough resume stuff, and I had cool, you get guys as references. I had some probably like Steve Coleman, some other people, some friends of mine as references and stuff like that. But anyway, I proposed to them a project. Um, I'm from the Hill District in Pittsburgh, and that's also the neighborhood of August Wilson. And
Mm,
so, and actually where they filmed Fences is the block behind where I grew up.
wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. So I had an idea, and I was going to compose music for all of the plays in the Pittsburgh cycle. And so I kind of had started doing it anyway, and it was something I was going to do independent of the Guggenheim people. And so yeah, I just broke it down, and eventually maybe I will do it, but there's a lot of people competing for um, that attention from August, but
Yeah.
but I started writing this stuff and movements and pieces for like characters in plays. Like I wrote this piece called the Sage about the old wise person, and it's kind of based on Felicia Rashad's character in Gem of the Ocean, the Queen Esther, the nobody knows how old she is, but she knows everything and she has powers and stuff like that. But anyway, but they went for it, and really an honor. And it's like physicists and novelists and
Yeah.
me, the chemists, and I'm like, this is really heavy. This is like I don't take it lightly. But then I will say I started to research August, and I was like looking at him. I was reading interviews and whatever. And one of the main things about him was that when he was constructing his work, that he tried not to be derivative, and that he worked in a vacuum, and he wasn't,
Mm,
what I mean. So that made me kind of back off a little bit and be like, I should personalize this a little more, and not, I don't know how people are going to take it. It's like, you're trying to bite or ride on August and whatever. I'm still using his format, but I'm composing something more generally about Pittsburgh, about the history of music and my experiences, and from from the written music about Earl Garner or about Billy Strayhorn, about just different experiences, the stuff about sports in Pittsburgh. I wrote stuff about the experience of going to the Civic Arena to see like great funk shows. So I got I'm taking it through different eras. So there's like a '70s vibe, there's an '80s vibe, and stuff like that. So using that same format, but also I had gone to a play. I'd gone to a play to see my good friend Wendell Pierce. Wendell Pierce was one of my early roommates in Brooklyn. And so, I knew he was in town. So I went to see him. And then afterwards we're hanging at this bar, and the Anthony Chisholm, the great actor that just passed, he's there. And so Pierce asked me, he said, I heard about this thing you're thinking about. And so I started describing it, and I was talking about it. And Anthony, he just let me know about the reality of dealing with August's estate, and he was like, "Well, whatever you're gonna do, before you get too deep, you better talk to my man's widow. You better run that by her, and blah blah blah." And whatever. So I mean, that all of that kind of had an influence on me, and I just kind of like I'm personalizing it like that. So I'm gonna premiere this suite, and it's called Suite Pittsburgh, and it was supposed to be on the Pittsburgh Jazz Festival this past June, but I guess they're trying to reschedule the whole festival to the fall. So hopefully that'll
Oh,
happen.
I hope it happens, man, because this COVID is killing everybody. Like I said, I've talked to countless musicians, man, and but that's incredible. I look forward to that. I hope you're able to do that. I also wanted to ask you about another artist who you got an opportunity to work with, Miss Alice Coltrane. What was it like working with her, man?
Man, um, sometimes I'm fully prepared to digest what I'm going to get from these people. And sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still honest. Everything is honest as I can make it. So whatever my perspective is at a particular time, I jump in with that, and I jump in with my heart and stuff like that. But sometimes you would like another opportunity, because I was keyed into to what she was about. But now I feel more simpatico, and I know a lot more about how she vibes. But anyway, the beautiful thing about her, when we moved to Los Angeles, I guess what did I play with her before though? I played with her while I was in New York. We did a concert. It was like a double bill with Ravi's group, with her playing a little bit.
Right.
So that band was like myself and Monty Plaxico and maybe Mike Kane playing piano, and somebody else, and then she kind of came in there, and we were on a double bill with Ravi Shankar, maybe a town hall. So
Wow.
that was, yeah. I'm just saying it like it's nothing, but it's like so heavy. Yeah, it's crazy. And so I mean, so I played with her a little bit, and then we had played a little bit. She came and sat in with Branford, like we played like a little some Love Supreme excerpts and stuff like that. But the heavy thing was when we moved to Los Angeles for Tonight Show. It's kind of like all the different communities would come and deal with us. Like the musicians union would come and meet with us, and Earl Palmer was like the president of the union, so they just come in and just making sure that we're cool, and everyone's offering their services and stuff like that. And there was a day when Miss Alice and Michelle Coltrane and some ladies from the ashram came down to NBC and just came up to the room and was just like, we're out here, and don't be afraid to if you need anything and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I remember I played they had a Coltrane festival in Los Angeles every year, to raise money for the foundation and stuff like that, and Santana's involved and things like that. And I just remember like my first time being in her presence by myself. It was kind of like she was in her dressing room, and she came out with the people from the ashram, and it was like incense and stuff like that, and you could just feel her. You could just feel her presence, man. It was
Hmm.
like it was bananas. It's bananas, you know. But doing the recording, I kind of jumped in. I mean, Jack DeJohnette is also involved in there, and he kind of, I feel like he understood more about what she was about. And he played. Of course, he interfaced with her various times, probably in the past 30 years and whatever. But it's cool. I'll never forget it. And the other thing was, what was it? Whenever she passed, whenever she passed, I happened to be in Los Angeles, and Branford was a guest on the Tonight Show,
Yeah.
and we had we had an afternoon off. I guess we played in L.A. We played on the show, and then we had a gig in San Diego the next day. But her funeral was taking place at the ashram, and so I went out there. I heard about it and I just planned on it. So I got a car and I drove way out in the valley and went to the ashram, and like Charlie Hayden is playing and cats are there. And Robbie didn't expect me. Like I didn't see very many of the New York cats there, but I just came in and sat down. And Robbie saw me. And he was like, emotional. He's like, kind of basically crying and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's beautiful you're here. And I'm like, she's Alice Coltrane, but she's also your mom. So it's
Yeah.
just like, so yeah, yes, I'm here. It's my honor to be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so much, so much. But it's like there's just a point during the service that we were kind of like in a tent outdoors, and a vibe came through there that I'll never forget. And everybody just looked around at each other. Like,
Wow.
did you feel that? Yep. 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 All over the place. It was bananas.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing that you experienced that.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I wanted to play a game with you. We're going to do a game here.
All right.
And I'm going to name a list of drummers. I just want you to say the very first thing, Jeff, that comes to your mind. There's no right or wrong answer, just
Okay.
what you think. First name, Max Roach.
Oh, class and really just so cool. I mean, of course, precise and an activist and inspiration. I mean, the more I learn about him, the more you can look back at those records. Like at a certain period, he decided that all of his musical output was going to be directed towards the struggle, and you see it in the stuff that he put out and things like that. Just an example of somebody just I mean, if you're trying to affect some kind of change, you can you can be revolutionary, and then also you can do a certain amount of change from within. And from his real true understanding of music and the system and stuff like that, he was able to just get inside with education and create his own events and things like that. So I got to see him in so many contexts with the percussion ensemble, with singers and all kind of duets and things like that. I remember Stanley Crouch got me tickets to see him, and it was him and Toni Morrison and Bill T. Jones, the choreographer. And they did a
Mhm.
3-person thing, in Alice Tully Hall or something like that. And Max just had his whole setup and timpani and all that stuff on this beautiful riser and spoken word and dance, you know. But I've said it in interviews, but with drums, you're always trying to think of ways to frame your instrument or present it in different ways. And it's like the more you look around, the more you see how Max Roach did basically everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next name, Art Blakey.
Art Blakey, uh, gangster man. Just like it's like you can swing, but then Art Blakey, it's almost like the swing is like a beat. It's like a funky beat. It's not just like, oh, I'm just tapping on the cymbal. No, he's got that groove on lock. It's gangster, and that's the difference. Um, yeah, me and Cecil Brooks were talking about it the other night. Just like it's part of the Pittsburgh kind of thing. It's like when you play in swing, it should be with the intention of somebody dancing to it. You know what I mean? If you're gonna go there, like if you're gonna play any kind of groove, that's your whether they do it or not. That's your ideal thing, or you're trying to generate some kind of sexual, emotional, spiritual thing with it. And we were just talking about that, and that's who our Blakey was. He just really, really kind of mean and completely a genius of music.
Yeah. Next name, Philly Joe Jones.
That's another one. That's another one. Yeah, just really magical, really a funny guy, really sparky and inventive and witty on and off the bandstand. Um, yeah, I wish I could play the snare drum like that. I mean, yeah, just the perfect jazz drummer, greasy yet precise.
Yeah. Next name, Roy Haynes.
And another one, Ray Haynes, just ingenious and kind, crispy, um, universal. One of those people like Papa Joe Jones or whatever. Those, I mean, Roy
Yeah.
Haynes actually did play with everybody. So
Yeah.
I always feel like when the musicianship gets to a certain level, it's like you could, it's like Joe Jones or could find something to play with Coltrane because he played the instrument that well. And Roy Haynes, he just did everything, and it's amazing he's still playing, and his
He'll be
family
96. He'll be 96 in next month.
next month, and
Yeah.
he'll be somewhere, and I always thank his family for like just allowing us to see him, and and the right tempo on the right day is 1964 all over again. It's like just you know
Next
that
name.
real thing.
Next name. We talked about him earlier. Elvin Jones.
Jonesy the genius. It's like he just ties everything together. It's like I mean the African element of this music, it's there anyway, just by how it's been constructed and things like that. But he just really puts it right there. He just ties everything together. It sounds just so black and nice
Yeah.
and comfortable. And then he was just gracious to everybody, and people come to me and they're like, man, oh man, I was afraid to talk to you. You were so cool. You didn't care. You were so nice. And I'm like, there's a whole bunch of people before me that was so cool, man. It's like I would see Elvin and he would hug me and be friendly to me, and I'd be like, man, Elvin, he's really fond of me. And then he sees somebody else and be like, he would just see just people. He was just cool, man. He was just like, yeah. But that swing, he and Art Blakey got that real, really, really stupid swing, and I mean, just the way he played Latin, the way he played Afro-Cuban music, it influenced the Afro-Cubans. I mean, the
Hmm.
Cubans. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Next name, Tony Williams.
Yeah, man, why he beat me up like this? This is like I don't even play drums. No, but it's like, yeah, Tony. Tony just. I use him as an example, because there's different ways to get to your expression in this music, and there's people, you know, there's maybe a portion of younger musicians that are trying to get their thing and trying to make sure that they have an individuality, and that's really cool. And there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. I think you have to at least listen to a lot of music, and even if you don't play like the older styles, you kind of have to be aware of how people used to put music together and stuff like that. So, and I find that some of the younger musicians I dig, like it's in there somewhere. Whether they played with Johnny Griffin or not, you can tell that they heard. You can. I mean, what Kareem Riggins plays with Common is has nothing to do with what he played with Ray Brown, but the music resonates with his experience and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Robert Glasper, he knows what Keith Jarrett played. He has an idea of what McCoy Tyner and Herbie Hancock played.
Right.
So, but people artists should do whatever they feel. But then I always use Tony as an example of just like knowing the history so much that it kind of is the music is all around you, and then it just makes it's almost like a stencil of who you are. So he's got so much knowledge that it forms an outline of who he is. So I mean, you can listen to him, and you can, wow, he hit that bass drum. That reminds me of Art Blakey, the way he crashed that cymbal. That snare drum thing is kind of like Roy Haynes, kind of like Max Roach, and whatever that thing on the tom toms is like that, and but just the way that it's all put together and inspired, and like someone like him or someone like Christian McBride, it's an example of someone just not just not just embracing the tradition, but just really, really being responsible for a whole lot of music, and then it just forms an outline of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next name, Jack DeJohnette.
Yeah, it's rough out here, man. I don't even know. We might have to just eliminate drums. Just let them do the drum machine. Just let them program the thing and just leave the drums alone.
Yeah.
Now, Jack, he's just so smart and so musical. And a lot of music involves, especially for drums, involves problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes there's pre-existing things and forms and formats, and then sometimes you have to just kind of invent some stuff. And that's what he's really good at. It's like he finds the right thing to play for like so many things, you know. And at the same time, he does it exactly like himself. You know, it's like yeah, it took me a while to really get to him. Even though he always sounds good,
Yeah.
like I was always wanting like the the parts of him that reminded me of other things. I always wanted those elements more or something like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's kind of like human nature. You go see a film and you want something to remind you of something, you know, especially as you get older. You know, you want something to remind you of this and that so that you feel a certain way. But art can be so many things. So I'm like, yeah, he's kind of like Elvin, but I, I could just listen to Elvin, and
Right.
he's kind of like Tony, but you know, but then Tony is deep over here, but he's not even any of that, you know. But it's in there. But yeah, he's ahead of his time with interpreting modern music, you know, because you know, just for many years I would kind of think of like bags, you know, you accumulate bags of stuff to 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 draw from and stuff like that, but more and more you have to just kind of invent something, and he's so excellent at that. And you know, like so many of his performances, they remain fresh.
Yeah. Next name, Billy Cobham.
Oh my god. Yeah, well, if he somehow sees this, I think he just got a hip replacement or something like that. So he's walking with a cane, but he'll be back whooping everybody's ass very shortly. But Mr. Bill, probably my first true hero of the drums. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, what you gonna do with that? It's like, you know, still in the center of my thing it is some Bill. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, when I'm trying to go and crash and hit and get with them toms and go around and put that kick drum in there and stuff like that. It's about Bill. I mean, he changed the game.
Yeah.
He changed the game, man. It's a big kid, little kid, whatever. It's like, you know, he just opened up a lot of possibilities, and the Mahavishnu stuff alone, man.
Oh yeah. Incredible.
I'm always surprised. You know, a lot of younger musicians they write like stuff and is attempting to be like kind of complex and things like that and different time signatures, and some of them have never heard the Mahavishnu Orchestra, so they'll feel like, you know, some cats will be like, yeah, I wrote this thing and it's in 617. It's new. I'm like, well, maybe some aspects of it are new, but have you heard this? You know, yeah, man, so strong, so strong, man. Just really inspirational, man. I wish I could get you know. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna try to get to that before. I'm gonna try to get to that command. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Next name, Lenny White.
man, you got the Avengers of the drums. You got like the Super Friends up in here. Yeah, Mr. Lenny, Mr. White is just Mr. White is another one. It's like ahead of his time, knows everything. He's so smart. It's just really jive. He just knows everything. It's really jive. He can absolutely play with anyone in any type of music and sound like himself. He was instantly great. You know, it's like what is that? Red Clay is like his second record date or something like that. What's up with that? It's like he kind of did Bitches Brew and Red Clay and whatever, and graduated high school or something. It's like it's just something really ridiculous. But he's also must be a vampire because he looks the same, and that's jive
The
too.
dude doesn't age, man. He's in his early 70s. He does not. He looks younger than me, and I'm in my mid 50s. So
It's
it is.
jive. It's really
Yeah.
jive. It's really jive. But yeah, always gracious, really cool. Yeah. I don't even. You know, I mean, just a few before I even knew very much about his like jazzier side and stuff like that. Just like with Return of Forever and some Peanut Butter and some
Yeah.
and the Astro Pirates and all the funky rock and stuff and the way he used to have that stuff with Return of Forever and he'd have that phase shifter on the snare drum and it'd be like just that sound and woo
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Just a couple more. Next name, Steve Gadd.
There was a period of time when Steve Gadd was my favorite drummer. And
Really?
there was a period of time, I guess, like maybe right before I got to Berkeley, it was just like his range.
Mm-hmm.
His range was really impressive to me. It was like, I mean, he has his own way of playing everything.
Right.
He's got a funky thing that's, it's not completely funkity funk, but it works, and it's his own Steve Gadd kind of funk. That's cool. He got his own kind of Latin vibe. He got his own, he's a great interpreter of music, fluent soloist. He makes really brave decisions, but he knows that his pulse is so good that no matter what, it's at least going to feel a certain way. His time is really, really good. He has control over his stuff. It's like Max Roach in another way because
Mm-hmm.
he's got isms. Like Max Roach got a bunch of isms. He's got like signature trademark things that he plays. Maybe like 30 things. I'll say 40 things just to be whatever. But he knows how to use them. He'll use them fast, he'll use them slow, he'll use them out of time as texture in an avant-garde setting. He'll use, he'll use them for solo drums. He'll use them as a accompaniment, with the amazing Hassan. But Steve, yeah, there was a period of time. It was kind of like, wow, he sounds good. He's playing fusion. He's playing like kind of funky stuff. He's on some pop records. He's really kind of
He was in
versatile.
demand back in the day, man. Studio drummer. I mean, he was on everybody's recording. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. And then he's got his own way of doing a swinging thing. I probably heard like three quartets or something like that. One of those chick records.
Yeah.
Props to chick. Um, yeah, but there was a period of time I was like, wow, he's just really he's on to something. He's on to something. He came up with something, you
Yeah.
know, and he's humble and cool. We just hung out in Tokyo, Tokyo Jazz Festival. I guess Esperanza was playing with kind of like her bigger group, like kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
big band thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we were just hanging out. We was like just walking around. "Oh, let's go by the monitor. We just hanging out, like checking out music. He's just like unaffected and cool. Yeah, I dig him though.
Yeah. So many the drummers we can go through, but we're going to hit one more. Dennis Chambers.
He's kind of like the culmination of somebody. Y'all made him in a lab or something down there. That's the fool,
Yeah.
man. I don't even know. Yeah, I got conscious of Dennis while I was at Berkeley. I guess yeah, cats going back and forth to New York. Maybe Victor Bailey or Mark Lefford or someone, they had gone to like a P Funk rehearsal,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess he probably had, I guess he joined them kind of maybe like 18 or 19 or something like that. Joined the Brides and then the Funk, and so I had a taste of him. I was listening, checking him out, and then I moved to New York, and I guess he was doing some stuff with special effects, that band. So I started seeing videos of that. Just but if you took he's like Frankenstein. You take the power of Billy and the polyrhythms of this dude, and just so many different sensibilities. But at the core is that sound and that groove. So he really he really changed a lot. He changed, he changed people playing grooves for sure. It's like you better bring something. It's not enough just to play a beat and have it be the right beat or be in time or something like that. You got to put some sound and some juice into that beat. And but anyway, I just remember living in Brooklyn, um, maybe 1983, 1984. He just got my phone number from somebody and called me. I had never met him or anything. And he was like,
Mm.
hey man, it's Dennis, it's James, blah blah blah. And we just
That's
talked.
him.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
You're good, man. You can consider a career man doing voiceovers or something. I'm telling you.
I actually did a voiceover for Denzel. Like there's a thing called looping in film
Right.
where they make the clean version. So there were some curse words they wanted to take out, and I had to loop some stuff for myself. And while I was there, the guy was like, "Yeah, see if you can do this," But I'm okay with that. But yeah, he's just amazing. We ended up hanging, and what did I do? But I didn't really see him and meet him. But then we went to see P Funk All Stars were playing at this club, the Red Parrot in New York, and
Hmm.
and funny that I mean, this is not strange at all. But me, Branford, and Winton went to see P Funk All Stars. And then I went backstage, and then we was hanging out, and then we just started hanging, man. It's like when I would come to Baltimore, he would take me out, or Scott Peak would take me out. I mean, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, we got the football thing, but the towns are more similar than dissimilar. It's like it's a vibe, and I'm very comfortable there. But I just love Dennis, and Dennis, like I told you about Elvin, be having a vibe you know, like being uncomfortable with me cheesing on them.
Hmm.
It's kind of like after one of those gigs with Schofield, I was just like, man, you just trying to you know just run people out, or you just trying to take over, and it's just not cool. And he's like, man, don't be cheesing on me, man. Don't do it, man. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, man, we can just kick it. It's cool. We can do that.
That's too funny.
But I just love him, and he's done so much for the drums, man, and for music.
You know, I'm going to add one more person to this list who I think is in the same class. Brilliant musician, one of my favorite drummers, Jeff Tain Watts. That's what I'm going to add to the list. You were there, man. Love your energy, love your spirit. You're a phenomenal drummer. Your name always comes up, man. We're always talking about drummers, and that was one of the things that I always wanted to do. I said, I got to get Jeff on my show. I just had Steve Coleman on last week. We were talking about you. I've had one of your buddies from Pittsburgh. I've had Roger Humphreys on here too. Billy Kilson, everybody, Steve Gadd, everybody's been on. Dennis, everybody's been on. Sonny Emery, I can go through the list, man. And having you on has just been a blessing. You're a class act. Hang on, I'm about to close out the show. You've heard, thanks, man, thanks. You've heard it from the great Jeff Tain Watts. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.